Welcome back to our thrilling conclusion. When we last left Holmes and Watson, they were staring at a cryptic note, the only clue linking the mysterious death of Lord Harrington to a shadowy group known as the Serpent's Coil. The air in 221B Baker Street was thick with tension, a single playing card on the table serving as a silent, mocking signature. For days, Holmes was a whirlwind of frantic energy, pacing, muttering, surrounded by chemistry sets and obscure books. Watson watched, helpless, as his friend wrestled with the enigma. Then, one evening, amidst a cloud of acrid smoke from one of his experiments, Holmes slammed a book shut with a triumphant shout. "I have it, Watson. It's not a name, not a place. It's a formula." He explained that the strange symbols on the note weren't a code in the traditional sense, but a chemical recipe. It described a sophisticated, almost undetectable poison derived from a rare Amazonian fungus. This poison didn't just kill, it induced a state of extreme terror, flooding the victim's system with adrenaline before triggering a fatal cardiac arrest. That explained the look of pure horror frozen on Lord Harrington's face, and the faint, unusual scent Watson had noticed at the crime scene. That was the poison's only lingering trace, a ghost in the air. The playing card, Holmes now understood, wasn't just a calling card. It was a brand, a mark of pride for a group that had mastered the art of murder. The Serpent's Coil was not just a gang, they were artists of death. With the how solved, Holmes turned to the who. His focus sharpened, his gaze distant. He knew the killer had to be someone with intimate access to Lord Harrington, someone who could place the poison without arousing suspicion. He re-examined every statement, every alibi. His mind kept returning to one person, the grieving widow, Lady Beatrice. Her alibi was perfect, almost too perfect. She claimed to have been in her room all evening, distraught. But Holmes noticed a tiny inconsistency in the timeline she provided, a 5-minute window that was unaccounted for. It was a thread, and he was ready to pull it. "Watson," he announced, a glint in his eye, "we are going to set a trap, and our bait will be a lie." Holmes penned a carefully worded message to Lady Beatrice. He wrote that he had discovered definitive evidence proving her innocence, but implicating a known business rival of her late husband. He requested an urgent and discreet meeting at a secluded gazebo in Regent's Park to discuss how to proceed. It was a gamble. If she was innocent, she would likely bring her lawyer or refuse to meet in such a clandestine manner. But if she was guilty, she would come alone, eager to see how she could use this new evidence to her advantage. The next evening, a thick fog coiled through the trees of Regent's Park, muffling the sounds of the city. Holmes and Watson waited in the shadows near the designated gazebo. As the clock tower chimed 8, a cloaked figure emerged from the mist. It was Lady Beatrice, her face pale and drawn. She moved with a nervous energy that belied her composed demeanor. She entered the gazebo, and Holmes stepped out to meet her. "Lady Beatrice," he began, his voice calm but carrying an edge of steel, "thank you for coming." "Mr. Holmes," she replied, her voice a little too high. "Your note. You said you found something that points to Mr. Albright." Holmes smiled, a thin, cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. "There is no evidence against Mr. Albright, madam. The only person the evidence points to is you." A flicker of panic crossed her face, but she quickly masked it with indignation. "This is outrageous. I am a grieving widow, and you accuse me of murder." "Yes," Holmes interrupted smoothly, "a most ingenious murder. You see, the poison wasn't in his drink or his food. It was in the air itself. You knew your husband had a nightly ritual, didn't you? He would lock himself in his study for an hour before bed, light a stick of his favorite sandalwood incense, and read. A creature of habit, a fatal habit." He took a step closer. "You simply replaced one of his incense sticks with one of your own, one specially treated and coated with the poison. You placed it in the box earlier in the day. When he lit it that night, he sealed his own doom, inhaling the toxic fumes in an enclosed space. By the time the incense had burned away, so had the evidence. You were safely in your room, with a perfect alibi, a brilliant plan. Lady Beatrice's composure finally shattered. Her face crumpled, and tears streamed down her cheeks. She sank onto the bench, her body shaking with sobs. He was going to expose them, she whispered, her voice cracking. The serpent's coil. He found out about their operations, their blackmail, everything. He was going to go to the papers. And they couldn't allow that. Holmes finished for her. No, she choked out. They came to me. They knew things about me, from my past, secrets that would have ruined me, ruined my family name forever. They told me if I didn't help them, they would release everything. It was him or me. They gave me the incense. They told me exactly what to do. I didn't want to. I loved him. Her confession dissolved into incoherent sobs. Scotland Yard, hidden nearby, stepped out of the fog and took a distraught Lady Beatrice into custody. The case of Lord Harrington's murder was officially closed, but as Holmes and Watson walked back towards Baker Street, there was no sense of victory. Back in their familiar rooms, Holmes stood by the window, staring out at the gas-lit London streets, where the fog swirled like a living entity. "We caught a pawn today, Watson," he said quietly, his voice heavy. "Lady Beatrice will face justice, but the ones who pulled her strings, the puppeteers, remain in the shadows. The serpent's coil is still out there." He watched a carriage disappear into the gloom. This wasn't the end of a case. It was the beginning of a war. A much larger and far more dangerous game is afoot. The game had just begun. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this mystery, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what comes next. Until then, stay curious,